stuff out.
My grandson.
I saw this new one.
She doesn't touch her foot.
Post that Facebook group thing.
I had several.
Alright, I'll take to get this thing. He said we're probably gonna have Ron.
Interesting.
Did you check the error message at the bottom?
Well, we got the handouts out there. I mean, so you wanna go through 35 pages on here.
You met Dave.
That's fine, but I just knew that I told him this one. I just wanted you to know that's the reason behind it. So we're gonna work on it.
I saw a why you cleaning out and I noticed there was some, a couple of young ladies, 2 or 3 guys looking into the one by the parking lot. I didn't go over and bother them about it, but I assume everyone's
Using that sequential.
Oh, yeah. Maybe something to do with it. It looked like they were It's not bad. You may have told me that, I just forgot. So. How's all your crew doing so far? Your family doing okay?
Yeah.
We'll probably not get Ron to look at all of those.
Rusty, doing all right?
Not worthy.
Oh, yeah. I'm not so sure I am.
Life goals.
I've been demoted to mental, it's in my meeting thing. Yeah, I've been demoted. Not anything about people, not anyway soon, I'm kind of holding on to some more. I called it going on, there was no free buildings, you know, and touch base with them, and all that.
I would like to call to order the regular work session meeting for the city of Cherryville for Tuesday, May the 30th, 2023. The first item we have to discuss tonight is the consent agenda approval or denial. The only thing on our consent agenda is consideration of a public hearing in reference to our proposed fiscal year 2023 through 2024 budget. I would entertain a motion from council to approve our consent agenda at this time.
Second.
I have a motion in 2 seconds to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor of this motion, please say aye. All opposed, the same, and it is unanimous. Next will be items for discussion or action. We will go to item 4. This is the discussion of medical insurance coverage for spouses, and our city manager, Brian Dalton, will lead us through that. And we do have a handout from our city clerk on, the poll that was taken on from different municipalities. If you'll, pull that up, or I'll share that with you. You got one? So, go ahead, city manager, Dalton.
Mayor, council, what we were looking at is, this got brought about when, one of our employees that has their spouse on their insurance went to Billy Cruz, which is our broker, to discuss some of the coverage we have with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And at that time, what Billy came and talked to Paige and I about is that really we were paying too much to have spouses on our plans. Currently this year, our rates, at first, Blue Cross Blue Shield looked to raise our rates 14%. We were able to negotiate that down to 6.5%, and then we also, on top of that, got a $20,000 premium credit, which changed our increase to just 3%. Currently, with the spouses, that's what's raising our rates so quickly per year. And what Mr. Cruz was talking to us about was he had an independent broker that could come in, meet with employees that carry their spouses and get them the same coverage at a lot cheaper price based off the Affordable Care Act. We've had some employees that came in that did not cover their spouses because they just could not afford it. Currently, it's $128 per week to put your spouse on the city's insurance. One employee in particular has been able to get a contract to get his wife coverage, and it didn't cost him anything because it's based off what your gross income is. And for example, currently, if we have an employee that just say makes $50,000 a year, they're paying $128 a week to cover their spouse. That's $6,656 per year. Under the Affordable Care Act, the contractor that came in, if you take the same person making a $50,000 gross salary, the maximum they can charge for that insurance is 9% of your gross salary, which is $4,500. So right there, it's already a $2,000 savings to that individual. So that's money that our employees get to keep in their pocket and go on this coverage. So we're looking at a $50,000 employee is paying around 13% of their salary to cover their spouse. But like I said, on the Affordable Care Act, the most they can charge is 9%. Now, they do have different levels too, so it could be even lower than that. They have a gold, silver, and a bronze, so they could technically get lower than the 9%. But the way ours works is every employee that has their insurance with the city of Cherville, they're paid 100%. We pay 100% of their medical coverage. But when they add their spouse on, the employee pays 60% of the premium, the city pays 40% of the premium. So if we look at limiting the amount of spouses that can be covered or how much we pay, that's where that list that Paige provided comes from. But she did this on a list, sir, and she sent it out, and of all the people that responded, I believe there was 31 towns that responded. You'll see over there the percent paid by the employer. 26 of the 31 paid zero towards that premium. So we're definitely not the norm. We're paying 40% of the premium for a spouse coverage. So what we're looking at doing is, Austin from, what's the name of his company?
No, he's out of Mount Holly.
He's out of Mount
He's a
Holly.
broker out of Mount Holly.
He has came in and met with several of our employees this affects, and like I said, we only have 8 employees right now that cover our spouse. He's looking at coming back in on June the 7th, and he signs them up for the Affordable Care Act. They would have their cards, he said, within 2 weeks if they sign up. He gets them the premium, they'll know exactly what it is, and we're looking at either one or two things. Do we wanna keep, first of all, do we wanna keep it as it is? The city, pay 40%, the employee pay 60%? Or do we want to allow you to leave your spouse on the city's coverage, but you pay 100% of the premium for the spouse, just like the other 26 that we told? Or do we wanna just quit letting spouses be on the insurance plan altogether? A lot of people, I know Gaston County went to this, if your spouse had the ability to get insurance from their employer, you didn't have a choice. You absolutely could not put them on the city's insurance or the county's insurance. So really, it's just something to think about and some direction that we probably, if we wanna do something, we're gonna need to do it probably within the next month or so. Cause we bill premiums a month, they pay for them a month in advance, for the coverage. So it's just something to think about. At the end of the day, I think it's gonna save, one employee in particular that really got this brought to our attention from Mr. Cruz was this employee in particular. Our employee was paying $555 a month to cover his wife. But Austin was able to get her the same coverage for $75 a month. So obviously then our employee saves another $400 and some dollars. So I think it saves the employee money per week out of their check. And from a city standpoint, with the 8 employees that are covering their spouse and us paying the 40%, it would save the city $36,858 annually in insurance premiums. And like I said, we wouldn't do anything unless Austin could come up here, get them signed up. Obviously, they would not be left out without insurance or anything like that. We wouldn't just kick them off, nothing like that. They would have the ability to either sign up or, if council chooses, allow them to stay on, but they pay 100% or leave it as is and we continue to pay those premiums.
So if they drop that coverage, that's just more money going to them
Correct.
on a weekly basis, which
Correct.
I
Like I
can
said,
see a
we've
lot
had-
of them would like that.
And I think it is by, they do it by zip code, so you have to go to certain doctors, obviously. But I mean, even our insurance now has an in-network and an out-of-network, so it's similar to that now. But I believe, I'm trying to think what he said, I know we go through Blue Cross Blue Shield, you can have coverage through Caramont, you go to those doctors. Was it Aetna?
Is the plan, and they can do, Atrium or Caramon.
Yeah, they can do
All
either.
urgent care, visits are free, no copay to them.
So if we get them on that affordable care plan,
Mhm.
it's not gonna impact them financially in a bad way, it could actually put more money in their pocket, right? 'Cause I don't wanna hurt any employee financially,
Yeah, it's,
so it would benefit them,
yes.
and, okay.
It's gonna be like I said, because the maximum the Affordable Care Act can charge is 9% of your revenue. And like I said, if you look at ours right now, and we have a lot of employees not making $50,000. We have a lot of them, and that $128 a week is that amount, whether you make 30,000 or whether you make 200,000. I mean, it doesn't matter, it's the same. So that percentage on a $50,000 salary right now, they're paying 13%. And in exchange for the Affordable Care Act, they pay 9%, with a 4% savings going immediately.
So this is something you would work up and talk to each individual.
And we have done that. We called all 8 employees in, all 8 employees have got to meet Austin, talk to him, but now he's scheduled to come back on June the 7th and talk to him further about getting them signed up, if that's what they choose to do.
These individuals is going into a group of their own, which helps them too.
Well, it's probably a massive group, because like I said, it's based off.
Yeah.
Accountability Act.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I can see that, but there's a lot to digest in that too, and
There
I'd
is.
rather we not make any decision on that until after this June the 7th meeting, with the, guy from Mount Holly, and let them know totally what the picture is on
Yeah.
everything, unless council sees otherwise,
And we have one,
Let me ask one question.
Our next meeting's June 10th, right, so we
Yeah.
can vote on
Mhm.
June
10th.
12th.
Is this a once a year deadline to sign up, or can they
Yeah,
sign up
June
if they leave their job?
They can sign up anytime,
Okay.
my understanding, yeah. How was I gonna say?
you know, we
We
meet
have
June
one
the
employee.
12th, so.
We have one employee in particular that Paige reached out to because he, you know, if you remember last year, we tried to get that other plan because we had some employees that just could not afford, say, the $128 a week. So we got that other plan to try to give people an option. You know, the deductible might be higher, but at least it got you some coverage. We brought him in, even though he didn't, you know, wasn't covering his spouse. So he went through with Austin, and Austin was able to get him a plan to where his wife is covered now, and it didn't cost him anything. She got coverage based off his gross income, as far as where it was.
That's great. Okay.
What about their minor children? Did that come in there or not?
I think children will eventually, it can be in play, but children, it changes it a little bit. But yeah, they can be covered as well. But you know, kind of the way we were looking at it here is, you know, we do have some employees that are covering their spouse on the city insurance. And they have the ability to get insurance of their employer, but they choose not to, and actually their employer is paying them to not take their insurances and go on ours. And that's really not fair to our taxpayers, in my opinion.
No, for our work, you did not. If you had access to it, you had to take it.
That's the way ours is, the only way you can get ours is to prove you can't get it somewhere else, at your other job, that's the only way you get on ours.
And I think we at least need to look at something like that if we don't
Is
see
that
anything
spouse
else.
and children?
Yes, you have to,
Okay.
if the wife works outside the home and doesn't have insurance at her job, then she can get on ours. If she does have it offered, she has to take that, you
Yeah.
can't get on.
Okay.
And that's what the Gaston County is doing. So
All
it's just
right,
something to
any
think
other
about.
questions from council on the matter? Okay, is that the consensus that we'll wait and discuss it at next council meeting or vote to see whether, okay. All right, then we'll move on to item 5, and this is discussion of the contract between the city of Cherryville and Piedmont Lithium. Again, our city manager, I know, everyone got the community development agreement. It was mailed out to everyone's, email addresses from, and our city attorney has looked over it, and I saw where he made some changes, mostly spelling and, tense, verbiage on tense. But, I think everybody's had a chance to look this over. So our city manager, what's your,
First of all, Mayor, like I discussed with you earlier, Erin is here from Piedmont Lithium, and I was gonna let her address the council if that was okay.
Sure. No problem at all. You go before the podium there.
Mr. Mayor and council members, good evening. I am with Piedmont Lithium, I'm Senior Vice President of Corporate Communications and Investor Relations. And we are very pleased to have been able to offer a community development agreement to the city of Cherryville to benefit the city and its residents for many years to come. This agreement is part of Piedmont's plans to support the long-term economic development in this region and to demonstrate Piedmont's commitment to creating shared value for communities where we plan to operate, starting with Cherryville. The Community Development Agreement has 3 primary points. First, it confirms that the municipal water that will be required by the proposed project will be provided by the city of Cherryville and purchased by Piedmont Lithium. And that will be detailed in a service agreement to be determined. We will also provide $1 million to help the city restart a recreation department and fund community recreation projects. We also pledge $500,000 annually for 20 years, for a total of $10 million, to the city of Cherryville to support a thriving community where all residents, including our employees and their families, can live and work. This pledge will begin with the first shipment of lithium product, which is expected in 2027. The success of the Cherryville community is vitally important to our proposed operations and our current and future employees. We already have employees who live and work in Cherryville, and once we hire the 420 plus positions planned for Carolina Lithium, filled with as many local hires as possible, we hope this investment will help ensure that Cherryville remains a healthy and thriving community where these employees, their families, and all local residents are happy to live and work. We thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Open for discussion by council. Does any council member have any questions for Piedmont Lithium representative? Okay, thank you very much. I would, entertain a motion from council either to accept this, community development agreement or reject at this time.
I make a motion to accept this community development agreement contract as submitted.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to accept the, contract between Cherryville and Piedmont Lithium as, presented tonight. Do I have any other discussion from any council member at this time? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. It is unanimous. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 6, and this is the discussion of our historical museum. And our city manager, Ryan Dalton, will lead the discussion on that and where we stand with the bids on the museum. And
Mayor, council, the 10-day bid process is now up, and what we have is, back in April, on April the 3rd, that was the last day to receive any bids. And on that day, on April the 3rd, we did receive a bid for $263,000. That $263,000 bid was supposed to run in the Eagle on April the 12th, that Wednesday. The email got sent to the wrong Scott. It got sent to Scott at Carpenter's Funeral Home instead of Scott at the Cherryville Eagle. So that ad did not run on April the 12th for the $263,000 bid to start that 10-day process. The $263,000, well, let me back up. On April the 12th, the ad was supposed to run, but on that same day, we received another bid for $300,000. So the $263,000 bid ran in the Cherryville Eagle on April the 19th. So after that 10 days was up, we already had the $300,000 bid. So with there being a question on when and the 10 days started and when it ended and all this stuff, speaking with legal counsel from Mr. Huffstetler, the School of Government, the advice is to reject any and all bids at this point.
so there wouldn't be any bid that we would be, even discussing at this time?
You reject them all.
We'll start the process over.
If you receive another offer, then you start the process over. That's correct. You remember how several months ago, when this process started and we got the first offer, during a council meeting, you vote to basically accept the offer, and then we start the 10-day bid process again. So at this point, we would reject any and all bids, and if we get another offer, it would come to you at a council meeting to accept that offer, and then at that point, we would start, if you do accept the offer, then we would start the 10-day process again and advertise it in the Cherville Eagle and go from there.
So let me get this straight. If we reject all bids, the historical museum goes back to the city at that point.
We still
Well,
own
it's
it.
never left the
It's never
city.
left the city. We
Okay.
still own it and have
So
it.
we're still gonna own it and control,
And, you know,
whether there's
And
a
it's just-
sale or not.
And it just ends that 10-day process, right?
Yeah, it
That we
ends
started
everything.
months ago.
we're starting over. And, you know, I printed off the general statute 168-269, the very last sentence is the council may at any time reject any and all offers. So you're well within your rights legally to reject all offers and start over.
And you've run this through our city attorney.
That's also stated in the legal notice itself, that's published.
Okay, okay.
And we
So,
don't start
I'm
over if we
saying
got another bid.
If we reject that, all bids tonight, what if somebody bids tomorrow? That doesn't mean we have to accept it either. That means it would have to start the process.
We're starting back at when we got that first offer. We would be like starting back when we got that first offer
Okay,
for what,
I understand.
150,000. It'd be like starting completely over.
Okay.
We won't have any offers on the table.
There's no offers, that's correct.
No offers.
Are we putting the museum up for sale, did we to begin with? Or
No.
we just got an offer, right?
We never put the museum up for sale, it was just, you got an offer.
Okay. So we didn't put it on the market. Someone decided they wanted to buy it.
You just got an offer.
Okay, well,
Can,
actually,
can the public say anything if we're involved in this?
It's a work session, we typically do not have public comment.
okay. That's from our city attorney. We do not have public comment period, during work session. Then, I would look for direction from council then on what's being discussed.
I'll make a motion to reject and suspend any further offers at this time.
I'll second it, we'll just see if anyone wants it, or we'll just stay the status quo, right?
Okay, have a motion on the floor in a second. It's open for discussion by any council member.
To be clear on the motion, just, you're rejecting all bids on this current process. Yes.
Right. Okay. Any
But you're
other
rejecting
discussion?
a legal bid
Uh,
at 263?
Reject. City council can reject any and all bids at any time.
And that is stated, in the bids,
In the legal notice and in the statute.
and it's in our general statutes also, okay? All right, I do have a motion on the floor to reject all, bids, that we've received on the museum at this time. We'll start, the process over if and when that occasion arises that will come before council. All in favor of this motion, would you please say aye? All opposed? There is none. Okay, so we're back at square one again, okay? We'll move on to item 7 is other business. Do I have anything from council for other business? Okay,
Only comment I've got is, just like to thank all of our employees for the hard work they did over the problems that we had with the weather.
I'll second that. I think that goes without saying how they step forward. I always say it, the cream comes to the top when you need it, and they were there. We asked them to do something, they were ready to grab their hat or coat or whatever and go to work, and the results prove that. The last time we had this much outage in our city, it was an ice storm we had, and people were out of power anywhere from 10 to 17 days. We had 97, 98% of the power up within 3 days. So that tells you how hard these people worked. And I say give them a round of applause if nothing else. And that goes with so many departments, not just our public works and electrical department, but our fire department, Chief Walford, our police department, Chief Hunsucker, and Brian, I know when the emergency management group was here, would you read or tell me what they said about working with Cherryville and the workers here and all the staff?
Well, we had a meeting at the end of the process. You know, Gaston County, North Carolina State Emergency Management, our employees, people we've called in to help. And the state emergency management said 9 out of 10 places they go to with this type of destruction, they have to come in and take complete charge of the situation because it's that bad. But he said he was amazed and he felt like Cherryville run like a well-oiled machine throughout this whole process.
And I think that speaks volumes to, for our staff to know that they make such a comment as that they didn't have to come in and take over. We had it, the bull by the horns, and when they came in and all they had to do is take their chance to manage through the facilities we had, the command center we had. And I don't wanna go, and I plan to do this at our next council meeting, and I'd be remiss if I did not mention Shady Grove Baptist Church for the work they did. Oh my goodness. You would not believe they set up a center there. We know First Baptist Church is where when we go to emergencies, but they had no power. So Shady Grove came in, they took over, they brought in the Baptist Mission group, disaster recovery relief program. They housed them down there. They were sleeping upstairs at Shady Grove. They brought in bathroom facilities, showers. They even brought in washing machines and dryers so that people could come in and do their laundry if they needed. And the showers and all were just not for the relief people. It was for anybody that wanted to go in. If their house had been destroyed, their bathroom facilities, they could go down there. And they also, on top of that, had hot meals for anybody. If you didn't have a meal and you couldn't cook one at your house or find a place that was open because the power was off everywhere, you could go down there and get a hot meal. And a lot of that was through Antioch Baptist Church of, I don't know whether that's Dallas. I think that is Dallas. They brought in hot meals, so.
They provided over 300 or better.
Yeah, I know the chief and his wife at the fire department, they were handing out meals. What, would you estimate 500 people?
No, every bit of it. I think, Mayor, I think it was actually Antioch Lutheran Church.
Oh, okay, it's
Who provided those meals. There were over 300 hot, it was porta pit chicken meals that they brought that day. The former sheriff is a member of that church and they brought that up for us and all of the workers. Amongst a whole bunch of other stuff, waters, drinks, so they fed a lot of folks.
And we had grocery stores that pitch in.
Yes,
We had other businesses, restaurants.
Food Line here in town actually brought a bunch of stuff to the police department, stuff to the fire department, and that helped us feed all the firemen that were here, all the police officers that were here, all the electric guys. I think at one point in time we had 50 electric guys here in town from different agencies. So, and you know, that said a lot.
I was over there one day and the group came in, they said, well, I think we've got everybody fed, and they said, no, we got 40 more coming in just a minute. And they said they could not believe the type of food they got. They said, we came in, they said, oh, baked chicken's coming out of the oven now. They said they were used to getting, sandwiches, cold sandwiches and a bottle of water or something like that. And they were just amazed at how well, like you said, a well-oiled machine was in the works at this time, so.
On the first day, one of the firemen and his dad, what was his name, Richard?
Richard Carroll.
They went and got the stuff for lasagna.
Make 6
Four
trays.
huge
There were
steaks,
6 of
and
them.
those coming in, I know the gentleman from emergency management said that he'd never been fed like he was fed. Because they had hot meals, not just being given a pack of crackers or a cold sandwich.
I was afraid to get around that guy. He was moving so fast, he would run over you. He, in the kitchen, he didn't want you in there when they were trying to
We just kind of
prepare
stood
the
back and
meals.
let the firemen, they had it going on. Breakfast, gosh, Kobe, y'all were out in the bay doing pancakes on the
Pancakes,
lake.
sausage,
They were
liver
family.
mush, eggs, the works. Out there cooking on a grill in the Bay Area. I was helping carry some of that stuff in. Time you get one tray in, they'd send it back, fill this one up. We need, and I'm telling you, they work.
I was
And-
told if we had another disaster, they'd volunteer. I said, no, they said, thank you, and I said, no, we thank you, because I know we've spent 11 and a half hours down there feeding these guys, and every one of them said, thank you, coming through, and I thought, we're so appreciative, because it works on through the night. So,
I had Vesper City workers working on my street. And they were so complimentary of Brian and Chris and how y'all had it organized and easy to work with.
I'll have to say, Vesper City in particular, we didn't no more have the storm come through, and they were calling me within 2 minutes saying, hey, we'll send some people to help.
I think that Chad Robinson was up there that night and stayed all night.
You name it, we had, City of Gastonia, Forest City, the gas company, Chad Robinson, everybody pitched in and really helped out.
My street was Ranlow. Ranlow came in and worked my street, Jason Green and his
They
crew.
sent their chippers, for several days and helped get up the creek. And without that, we wouldn't be where we are now.
Yeah, so, it wasn't just Cherryville, we had so much help and people did, they were just waiting to help out. And I'm so proud of our city and its staff, and I just can't say enough. And all the people that help, and I will mention this again at council meeting, for sure. All right, other business, do you have?
One thing, today, probably around 4 o'clock, James Russell Dean came in and presented me to the city with a $30,000 check from the EDC board. And, that has been turned over to Dixie Wall for part of the disbursements for this year from me.
You already got it spent, Dixie?
You know Dixie better than that.
and I'd like to thank Brandon, thank you for staff too, for helping us with the Memorial Day parade. I think the rain kept a lot of people back, but there were a few people on the streets, and we came up to the mini park and had a wonderful, wonderful service of remembrance by Pastor Vince Hefner, and he's also Army chaplain to the reserves, and he had a lot of great comments, and our Memorial Guard did the 21 gun salute, played taps at the close of it, so it went really well
And
yesterday morning.
you laid a wreath.
I did, I had the wreath, the mayor walked with us too.
I
and
did a
Representative
proclamation
Hastings
from
read the
Roy Cooper,
Proclamation, it
governor.
was great.
had a proclamation for us to read.
I think it's probably one of the best ones, and one of our Memorial Guards just stood forward and asked us to mention anyone we knew that had fallen on a battlefield. And, we did that. He made it personal, because I was in school with several of these that we lost in Vietnam. And I told him, I thanked him, I said, you made it very personal.
He did, and he repeated, somebody in the audience would shout out a name, Anzio France was one of them, and told their name, and he would repeat it for the whole crowd to hear. You did the Hefner boy,
Right.
and, he repeat every name that someone mentioned, he repeated again, so it was heard. And I thought that was so personal to let, those that gave the ultimate sacrifice know that they were remembered.
It was a heavy miss of rain, but we got through it, got up there, and thanks to your guys, they took care of us.
Mayor, we still have one POW from the Korean conflict, and that individual's never been recovered. There's lots of research and a lot of groundwork that's been done in Korea, but his whereabouts are unknown still.
That is
They
sad.
are still looking for them. We have several that comes to our meetings in Raleigh, and there's a group from the organization that is still going in and trying to identify remains. They have not stopped looking for their fallen brothers. I'll say that for them.
Okay, anything else from staff?
I can already let you know that the declaration has been sent to Mr. Wright with North Carolina Emergency Management, and that should be official by the end of this week, and we should be able to start submitting reimbursement for the state.
Okay, and, Mike, add, they don't pay 100% of what we send in.
They don't.
I want our citizens to know that. We're over the million threshold, right?
We'll at least get to a million.
Now, I know we put up 30-some new power poles,
About 34, I think.
34, and we lost 20 generators, 20 transformers, and those aren't cheap. So, it doesn't take long. I saw one check I signed for a power company to come in to help us, $93,000 for the time they were here.
Add another 190.
Was it? I know when I signed the check and I took them in there for Brian to sign, and he said, I noticed one check when you signed it, it was like you were nervous. And I said, was it that 193? And he said, that's the one. So, anyway, we'll get through this. As I've said over and over, Cherryville is very resilient, and we come together in a crisis. We had a guy call us from California, who had just moved here from California, actually lived in Stanley, I believe. And he wanted to know if there was a family that had been displaced that he could help. And we tried to tell him we can't just take money, from anybody, and not, that it's not designated to a certain individual. And so we talked to him, kept talking to him, and he said, well, this is not from me, it's from God. God told me to do this, and I want to help a family out. So I said, well, Paige had him on speaker, and I was in her office, and I kept talking to him, kept thanking him for what he was doing. And so we decided he was gonna send gift cards from Walmart. And we said, okay, and what we'll do, we'll take a picture when we present them to the family, so you'll know the family that received this. And I said, would you give me your name and address? He said, I told you it's not from me, it's from God. I said, I want to send you a personal thank you card from myself for doing this. He said, okay, I'll give you my name and address. He said, and that shows again how personal Cherryville is, that they're willing to send me a thank you card for something that God told me to do. So, I mean, you see a lot of this happen when you have a crisis like this. So, again, I'm very proud of what we've done, and I stand on those merits.
How many homes were destroyed that have no insurance?
I don't know the exact number, but it was under the 24 threshold.
I know of a couple, but I wasn't sure how many were.
They just told us, last week at our follow-up meeting that we did not meet the 24 threshold. I was under that.
So I know these people was just out, their house is just crushed.
And he also mentioned Patrick O'Leary gave us $100,000 per storm.
Mr. O'Leary did send $100,000 to help with expenses.
That needs mentioning also. Sure does. Got a big heart. Okay. Anything else from staff? Okay,
Make a motion to adjourn.
okay. Have a motion for adjournment. I have a second. Have a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
You are adjourned.
Christine,
The only good thing I see with this is you can start a lot lower now. Well, I'm gonna run to the office. I got the lady that lost her house in the fire. My mom's at my office waiting on the stuff
Oh,
that's
wow.
been donated. But if I can do anything, help, whatever, you know,
Yeah. All right.
appreciate you.
I knew with all of this.
Oh, you're good.
We did not have one until we received all. We didn't say, this bill says not for sale.
Now it's not for sale.
And now it's back over. Well, that's true. We never gave them. Regardless of what you bid on that, it goes through. Well, it goes through, but that would go through the process. We legally, we have to. If you offered to spend me, we couldn't sell it to you.
Well, I just, do you have any, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Well, once we don't want me to balance scrape, I'll be fine.
You're fine. See you later.
Guys, we'll see y'all later. Rusty, be good, buddy.
Two.
I'm sorry.
How you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Michael, why did y'all just turn $263,000 down?
Well, we didn't want to get mixed up with all the controversies and stuff right now.
But you had a legal bid at 263.
Well, you're saying yours was illegal, and then he says his was illegal. So. And that's the reason we decided just to do what we did.
But it was fine a couple weeks ago. What changed your mind?
Well, we just didn't want to get tied up in those legal stuff right now when we could get out of it.
So it just didn't go the city's way.
Well, no, that ain't the reason, but
You sure about that? You had $263,000. Now you might not get nothing.
we can keep the building like it is.
Is the city going to keep the building?
Well, it's not up for sale. Excuse me, sir.
Brian, what'd you give up $263,000 for? Huh? You had it.